Hi, my name is Dave, and today I'd like to show you some interesting toy telescopes. At least I'm calling them toys. Some of them are a little bit more serious, but wonderful, interesting, strange, quirky little telescopes. Some of them dating back to the 1950s, others much newer. This is the famous or infamous Palomar model telescope, a model of the Hale 200-inch on Mount Palomar. And it's got some interesting characteristics. One, it is a working telescope. You can actually use it. This is your focusing device and so forth. It's a bit of a pain because without a lazy Susan, you have to physically turn it around in azimuth to make the thing work. So for a kid, it would have been a terrible pain to try and actually use the stupid thing. But it does deliver an image, more or less, kind of. The main thing is the complete charm of the construction of the thing. Kind of delicate plastic, but very, very fun, and fun to look at. This is another Palomar telescope. Apparently it was quite popular to put the Palomar brand on these things in the early 50s. Not at all surprising, since Palomar was a very, very big deal. It was the equivalent of the Hubble Space Telescope of that era. Anyway, this one has a couple of interesting features. It's a typical 50 millimeter, 50x 50 millimeter. It does have an image erecting device here. That's how you focus it. And it's got an interesting tube configuration where you have a fat piece of tube and then a skinny piece of tube here. And the typical nearly useless, almost completely useless Altaz kind of a configuration. But it's kind of cute. Here is yet another Palomar telescope. This one, and I'll show you a close-up of that. It's a little bit confusing because it looks like you just take the thing out and you pull it out like so. It does have an interesting focuser where you can pull it out. It's got a kind of a detent in there, and then you turn it and it does focus if you turn it. Well, to try to do that, it's not going to work. It just doesn't function. Until you discover the secret about this telescope. Take a look at that. So now you have a telescope, 20 by 45 Palomar telescope. And it works okay. I mean, it's not great. It's no worse than any of these other telescopes. Cool, huh? Okay, this telescope is marked Tasco Deluxe. And you open it up and voila, here we have a long skinny piece of metal with some glass in it, and the usual, if any of these telescopes is common, this one is common. These are, you can find these all the time on eBay. Not a great telescope, but it's a kind of a, traditional telescope of the class. Very simple, not much to it, and very hard for a kid to use. 30 by 40 millimeters. 30x is going to be awfully hard to work with this mount. I'll guarantee it. Any kid is going to be frustrated and have a hard time with that telescope. I had the experience when I was a kid. Okay. Here we have something very special. This is called 321 Contact Operation SkySight. And I'm not sure what year 321 Contact was a TV series for kids, and it was on, I think, in the 80s, but I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, let's see. There's a picture of this wonderful telescope. And here's a picture of the David Dunn Observatory telescope, which is very similar to this, only it's a much bigger observatory class telescope. Here's what this one looks like. I love this telescope for its extremely unusual mount. This is called a cross-axis mount, and it actually does work. Theoretically, this should be aimed at the North Star. This goes around like this. It's even got a little setting circle over there and a setting circle over here. So theoretically, you could use this. And it does produce an image. It's not a great image. And what is kind of shocking about this is this little device here. This little device here, this little elbow thing, seems to be relatively unnecessary. I suppose they put it on so that a kid could look through that and then be looking that direction. I have no idea why they put that on there. It's captivating though, I'll tell you. And of course it's got the typical cheap plastic construction, although it's functional enough. But it's just as cute as it could possibly be. I found this irresistible. When I saw this online, I said, I have to have that one. All right, this is a very interesting one. Comes in a cardboard box that's kind of beat up and dirty and stained. Open up the cardboard box. And what do we have inside? We have this. So here's what we have. We have a Newtonian. And this thing doesn't really need the Lazy Susan, because it has its own little bearing down there. Focus is very complex. You push and you pull for focus. And it actually works okay. You do even have the ability to collimate it. And here's an instruction manual. I don't remember if the instructions tell you how to collimate it or not. Maybe. And in addition to that, it's got some legs. So you can put legs on it. These are very, very low tech. That's probably out of frame for you. I'll show you another picture of this with this setup with the legs. Kind of cute. And it's of course got the charming map of the constellations right here on the telescope tube in delightful yellow and blue paper. Oh, there's a friction clutch. I didn't realize it had a friction clutch on it. Oh my goodness. This is a very high-tech telescope. Set up on its little legs. I suppose those would be about the right height for a little kid. Maybe a foot and a half off the floor. Anyway, there's a cute little telescope. Actually, not so bad. Fairly usable, probably, for a kid. Probably not that bad at all. You can see this device here is a peephole for a finder, so it might actually be sort of usable for a kid. So what have we here? Could this perhaps be a Questar? I don't think so. It's sort of like an Astroscan. Look at this fancy blow molded case. Wow! They probably spent as much on that as they did on the rest of the telescope. This is the telescope. Let's get rid of this case. Here's the telescope. This is a Vivitar. It's a 3-inch. It's about f5 or so. And it's a, believe it or not, this is a Maksutov Newtonian. Now, Maksutov Newtonian is a wonderful design. In the literature here, they claim it's brand new. I'm sorry. The Maksutov Newtonian has been around for many years. You didn't invent it. This is Vivitar. I think this is fairly recent. This was from the early 2000s, I believe. So it's not that old. And, but boy, oh boy, is it a cute little telescope. Here is the 36 power eyepiece. This has got an interesting focuser on it. You screw that in, and then, I think you can probably see, the eyepiece is moving in and out, so it's focusing. And it moves around like so, just like an Astroscan. It's very reminiscent of an Astroscan, except for this important thing here. What the heck is that about? That must be for its nuclear power plant, maybe? Not sure what. I know what this is. It's purely decoration to sell this stupid thing. And that, honestly, that's one of the reasons I became interested in this. I don't usually buy newer stuff. This one I couldn't stay away from, especially, I saw the design and I said, that's bizarre enough that I have to have one. But when I saw the design was a Maksutov Newtonian, I said, yes, I definitely have to have it. And the optics on this thing are not bad. Maksutov Newtonians are pretty good telescopes. There's even collimation screws back here. Buried deep inside those holes are 3 Phillips head screws and a lock screw back in the middle. Cute as it could be, and it's got a pretty decent image. The design of this thing is actually quite good. I've always loved the Astroscan as a very child-friendly kind of a scope. It's it's not as easy as you might think. You push it around and so forth. But by the same token, a child, at least it's intuitive. A child can push it around and maybe finally find something with some luck. This is the Jason SS1 shuttle scope. It's a 60mm telescope in the shape of the space shuttle. Let's open it up and see what's inside. There's the full instruction manual, which I will read and memorize. And here we have, here's the body of the space shuttle. This is actually the telescope objective. That's the main lens of the telescope. Where's the rest of it? Oh, there's some eyepieces back in here. If you can get them out. Well, a few things missing. Is this thing ever going to fly? Yeah, there are the wings. So you take the wings and you snap them in. Like so. The instructions say you're never supposed to remove them again. Yeah, hard to store if you don't remove them. Well, there's the telescope. Here we go. There we go. There in the... Oh, caution, never look directly at the sun. So here's all the important parts of the telescope. Okay, here we go. All right, first of all, here is the finder scope, and that slides on here, something like that. By the way, the tail can rotate one way or the other. If you pull that little device off, that's to make it easier for you to use the finder, I think. Okay, so that kind of locks in like that. Now I've got a focuser. And of course, this is your ubiquitous Barlow. Almost completely useless. The eyepieces are, again, almost completely useless. I think this is a 20mm, probably not too bad. The other one is going to be much too high a power. So there's your basic space shuttle telescope. Let's see if we can mount this thing. Comes with a fairly standard... Oh, I just noticed something else in here. This is a traditional image erecting eyepiece for terrestrial views. Here we have a reasonably inexpensive tripod. Of course, you have to drop the nose cone down to be able to use the thing. How's that for cute as can be? Very difficult to use on this tripod. Look at how shaky that is. You can tell how shaky that is. That's going to be really difficult for a kid. Even if you stretch the legs out and so forth, this is going to be, even if you had a much better tripod, it's really not a good way to mount a telescope. But boy, it sure looks nice in a kid's room. Golly, that's got to be impressive to look at. Look at that fellow. I hope you've enjoyed my tour of these charming toy telescopes. Thank you very much for watching.